Good evening, you're watching the news at 8. I'm Nidhi Razdan and these are the big stories today. It has been 1 month since Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. President Zelensky demands tanks, fighter jets and missiles from NATO. NATO tells Putin to immediately stop this war. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi lands in Delhi, the first visit by a senior Chinese minister in more than 2 years since the border standoff. Foreign Minister Shankar says that no one could have imagined the turn in India-China ties. Details of Bhirbhum's horror, how women and children were first beaten and then burnt alive. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee visits the violence-hit village. Yogi Adityanath is all set to take oath as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh once again tomorrow. He's formally elected leader of the legislature party. The Prime Minister will attend his grand swearing-in. India successfully test fires the surface-to-surface supersonic BrahMos cruise missile. These missiles can be launched from submarines, planes or from land. But first, it's been 1 month since Vladimir Putin decided to invade Ukraine. Thousands of civilians have been dead and President Zelinski of Ukraine today described it as a month of the darkest suffering. Heads of state of NATO countries met in Brussels today and issued a statement where they said that they condemn Russia's invasion in the strongest possible terms, also saying that Russia's war against Ukraine has shattered peace in Europe and caused enormous human suffering and destruction. They called on President Putin to immediately stop the war and withdraw military forces from Ukraine. Well, we're joined from Kyiv by Natalia Lutsenko, the chief of the international desk at ICTV. Natalia, thanks for joining us. 1 month into this invasion by Russia, how is Ukrainian resistance really holding up to the Russians?
Good evening, everyone. Actually, yeah, you say 1 month, but for us, I think it was like one huge day, long, horrible day. When you don't calculate what day of the week it is. You don't know what day of the month it is, but you definitely know what day of the war it is. Behind me, maybe you don't see a clear sky and it's fog outside, but that's the result of how Ukrainian forces are trying to push back Russian forces from Irpin and Bucha. So today, actually, they succeeded and Russian army get a step back to 30 kilometers from Kyiv, which is good. But it's quite bombing every day since morning and during the night. So, but I mean, Ukrainian forces are still resisting, especially in the capital of Ukraine.
Right. And in terms of the humanitarian costs of this war, and we heard President Zelensky today also talking about this as being the darkest month. What is the toll that this is taking on people?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely he was talking about the darkest times for the eastern and south cities of Ukraine. That's Mariupol, Kharkiv, Kherson, Chernihiv. For instance, in Mariupol, we have like humanitarian crisis, completely unbelievable in 21st century. 90% of the city have been destroyed and people are trying to evacuate, but Russians are fleeing people there. Through the loudspeaker, they announcing that their evacuation to Ukraine, but basically they evacuating people to Russia. And then when people are appearing in Russia, they don't know what to do next.
Natalia, thanks very much for that update. And as we were talking about the human costs of this war, Ukraine says that more than 100 children have been killed as a result of Russia's military action and thousands of civilians have lost their lives.
At least 128 children killed. Thousands of civilians buried in their own homes. Over 1 crore Ukrainians forced to flee for refuge. A month into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the human cost of the war leading to the resounding defeat of a Russian draft resolution at the United Nations that acknowledged Ukraine's humanitarian needs but completely omitted the Russian invasion which is causing the crisis.
The draft resolution has...
India was among the 13 members that abstained from voting, along with the United States, which says that Russia has committed war crimes, and the United Kingdom.
It really is unconscionable that Russia would have the audacity to put forward a resolution asking the international community to solve a humanitarian crisis that Russia alone created.
Their resolution called for respect for international humanitarian law, but overlooked the fact that they are committing war crimes. Their resolution called for the protection of women and children, but overlooked the fact that they had bombed the hospital in Mariupol and the theatre in Mariupol.
The only country to support Russia was China. This diplomatic setback for Russia coming ahead of the key NATO and G7 summits where Ukraine hopes for more solid support from the international community.
Ми знаємо, що вони працюють з деякими партнерами. Ми знаємо, що вони хочуть загасити цю тему, тему боротьби проти війни. Але загасити потрібно війну. На цих 3 самітах буде наша позиція, міцна позиція. На цих 3 самітах ми побачимо, хто друг, хто партнер, а хто продався і зрадив.
In Russia, even the resignation of Putin's top advisor, leaving the Russian leader unfazed on the surface. With stock market trading in the country resuming after a month, the benchmark index climbing 11%. Putin, meanwhile, now seeking payments only in rubles for gas sold to unfriendly nations.
Мною принято решение в самое короткое время реализовать комплекс мер по переводу оплаты. Начнем с этого, с нашего природного газа, переводу оплаты нашего природного газа, поставляемого в так называемые недружественные страны, за российские рубли.
But a month into the invasion, Russia, which has been one of the strongest armies in the world, has failed to capture any major territories. Leading to a key question, has Vladimir Putin miscalculated badly? Bureau Report, NDTV.
Well, if we look at just where this war stands after a month, you can see that Vladimir Putin has essentially failed in his aim to seize the capital Kyiv right away and replace the Zelensky government. He probably thought it would happen in a couple of days, but the resistance has been much stronger. Russia has stepped up its attack, but has yet to make any major gains in recent days. Ukraine has actually been fighting back to take back territory and regain control of Kharkiv. The war has been unrelenting in the port city of Mariupol, with satellite images showing vast destruction. A US military think tank has said that conditions of a stalemate appear to be emerging on the ground. More than 3.5 million Ukrainians have fled their country. That's about 8% of the population, while dozens of orphans with caretakers have arrived in the UK just this week. India has maintained a neutral stand until now, abstaining from all key UN votes when it comes to Russia's actions. Well, President Zelensky addressed NATO members today and demanded tanks, fighter jets and missiles, saying, give us just 1% of what you have.
Ви маєте не менше 20 тисяч танків. Україна просила відсоток. 1% від усіх ваших танків. Віддати нам чи продати нам. Але ми не маємо поки що ясної відповіді. Це найстрашніше під час війни – не мати ясних відповідей на запити про допомогу.
Well, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has landed in Delhi just a few minutes ago. This is the first visit by a senior Chinese minister to Delhi in the 2 years since the standoff in Ladakh actually began and the clash in the Galwan Valley that left 20 Indian soldiers dead. Wang Yi expected to meet Foreign Minister Jaishankar and NSA Ajit Doval tomorrow. It, of course, comes at a time when there is turmoil with regard to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and India also making it clear repeatedly that no business as usual is possible with China until this border standoff is resolved. Vishnu Shom now joining us for more on that story. Vishnu, what can we expect then?
Well, I think what is surprising, Nidhi, and we've both covered visits of foreign ministers and foreign leaders, is that this is as important a visit as any, the Chinese foreign minister in India under any circumstance. And yet, it's a visit entirely clouded in secrecy. Nobody wants to say anything, neither the Indian side nor the Chinese side. And I think given the fact that we have these extraordinary tensions on the border between India and China for the last couple of years, the huge expectation is, will there be some sort of a peace move, a peace initiative bilaterally led, which could actually bring down tensions, which could result in something more substantive than that. But whether that is something which is going to actually take place or not, there is absolutely no word, no clarity whatsoever on that, and therefore we can only hope that that is the case, since that's the biggest issue between the two countries. That said, the remark at the OIC just a couple of days back by the Chinese foreign minister, something which New Delhi has opposed, spoken out against, it was a statement on Kashmir, that has, in a sense, perhaps queered the pitch a little bit. Nobody really knows what to expect of that. But be that as it may, the Chinese foreign minister now in India, he's flown in from Kabul. Tomorrow will no doubt be a big day in India-China relations, one way or the other.
All right, let's see how that does play out. Vishnu, thanks very much for that. In fact, speaking at a college event in Delhi earlier today, Foreign Minister Jaishankar said that diplomatic interactions with China are ongoing and that few would have anticipated the turn of India-China ties in the last few years.
Few would have anticipated, for example, the turn that India's relations with China have taken in the last 2 years. Any prudent policy, therefore, backs its posture with capabilities and deterrence. A big responsibility of Indian diplomacy, therefore, is to create the widest set of options for such contingencies. This could mean acquisition of defense capabilities and other supportive measures, or securing the understanding for our policies and actions from the international community. Where China was concerned, the diplomatic interactions that are going on in parallel to the military standoff since May 2020 illustrate that foreign and defense policies are really joined at the hip. The leveraging of a multipolar world has been particularly visible in terms of weapons and technologies needed by our defense forces. That a Rafale aircraft acquisition from France can take place at the same time as that of an MH-60R helicopter or a P-8 aircraft from the United States, the S-400 missile system from Russia, or the spice bombs from Israel, speak volumes of our nimbleness.
In other news, horrific details have emerged of the killings in West Bengal's Bhirbhum earlier this week. It turns out that 6 women and 2 children were first beaten and then burnt alive by a mob following the murder of a local TMC Panchayat leader. As NDTV Saurav Gupta reports from the site, the bodies of the victims have been burnt beyond recognition. Facing huge criticism for the killings, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee visited the area today.
Well, you know, the remnants of that horrific incident that claimed lives of women and children burnt to death in their house is still to see. The extent of that fire, you can see some of that smoke still burning here. The dry hay stack that also perhaps set on fire along with this house. As Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee arrived, eyewitnesses and victims named those behind the conspiracy, local Trinamool leaders. They saw their families being attacked in front of their eyes on Tuesday. 6 women and 2 children were burnt alive as a mob set fire to several homes in Boktui village. The victims were women who were locked inside their homes with their children as a mob gathered outside. The victims' relatives say they saw the mob go after the family members and attack them before setting their homes on fire. Distraught residents like Mofiza Bibi say they've lost their families and their homes, and they blame the murdered Trinamool Deputy Gram Pradhan, Bhadu Sheikh's brothers, and a Trinamool Congress bloc president, Anarul Hussain. The victims are also Trinamool supporters and thanked Mamata Banerjee for not protecting the accused. They add there was growing rivalry over the last few years, and the murder was the fallout of political and business relationships gone sour.
মিলে ঝুলে একটা ব্যবসা করতো, সেই ব্যবসার ভাগ সবাই খেত, তার জন্য মাস্তান ছিলেন আনারুল, তাদের পুলিশের মাস্তান ছিলেন আনারুল, মাস্তানকে দিয়ে কাজ করাতেন ভাদু ছিলেন সমস্ত জায়গার মাস্তান, আর ওই মাস্তানের ওখানে ওর ক্যাটাগরির মানুষ ছিলেন লালুন, লালন যা করতেন মাস্তান ফিল্ডে গিয়ে লালন করতেন, আর ইনি পুলিশ সেভ করতেন, আর আনারুলকে দিয়ে পুলিশ সেভ করতেন। এদের সব থেকে বড় মাস্তান হচ্ছে আনারুল। আনারুল মস্তানি করতেন। আর সব
ভাদু মারা গেছেন, ওনার 3টে ভাই, তাদের ছেলেরা সবাই মিলে জ্বালিয়েছে। আর আমার মাদেরকে কুপিয়ে কুপিয়ে কুড়ুলে করে কুপিয়ে মেরেছে, তারপর জ্বালাইছে।
Mamata Banerjee ordered the arrest of the accused.
এবং আমি ভাবতে পারিনি এরকম নৃশংস ঘটনা ঘটতে পারে কখনো। আমরা আজকে আধুনিক যুগে যাচ্ছি, সারা বিশ্বে যুদ্ধ হচ্ছে, আর এখানে অশান্তির আগুন শুধু কয়েকটা লোকের জন্য। আনারুল আমাদের ব্লক প্রেসিডেন্ট, বাট তাকে কমপ্লেন করেছিল ওরা, কিন্তু সময় মতো পুলিশ পাঠায়নি, ওকে অ্যারেস্ট করা হবে।
মিথ্যা অভিযোগ হয়েছে। আমি তো হসপিটাল গেছি, এখান থেকে আমাদের উপপ্রধান মারা গেছে, এইটা খবর পেয়ে আমি হসপিটাল গেছি। তো হসপিটাল থেকে যাতে কোনো রকম গন্ডগোল না হয়, শান্তি বার্তা যাতে থাকে, সেইভাবে আমি দিয়েছি। যারা আগুন লাগিয়ে ভাদু শেখকে মার্ডার করেছে, দুষ্কৃতী যারা, তারাই আগুন লাগিয়েছে।
Anarul Hussain has now been arrested by the Bhirbhum police. 20 other people have also been arrested. The Congress and the BJP also sent fact-finding teams. They say the Trinamool has been protecting goons and is squarely responsible for the violence.
हम 355 की मांग की है, हम कोर्ट में गए हैं, कोर्ट मॉनिटर सीबीआई की जांच हो, ये भी हमारा मांग है। लेकिन इसलिए कि दूध की दूध और पानी की पानी अलग हो जाए, लोगों को पता चले। नहीं तो बंगाल के मुख्यमंत्री आज पिकनिक करने आए थी।
After coming here, when we found out that it was not a simple case of murder, it was basically how to divide, how to distribute this illegal earning from this illegal stone quarries, stone mining.
The Chief Minister also announced help for the affected families and jobs along with the help. Anarul Hussain has emerged as the kingpin behind this horrific murder of women and children by burning them inside their homes, and Mamata Banerjee did not spare her party leader. But more needs to be investigated as to how this entire conspiracy unfolded, who was responsible for burning people inside their homes here, and the police also have a lot of answering to do, including probing their own over failures of the police to prevent the incident. In Bhokti village with camera person G.D. Shankar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Meanwhile, Yogi Adityanath is all set to take oath once again as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh tomorrow. There will be a big ceremony which will be attended by the Prime Minister as well. He was formally elected leader of the legislature party at a meeting of the newly elected BJP MLAs in Lucknow today. Home Minister Amit Shah was also there. There has been speculation about whether the BJP will repeat Keshav Prasad Maurya and Dinesh Sharma as his deputies. They were seen on stage with him at the legislature party meet, if that is possibly seen as an indication.
भाइयों बहनों, उत्तर प्रदेश के इतिहास में ये पहली बार हुआ है कि कोई मुख्यमंत्री 5 वर्ष तक कार्य करे और फिर वह पार्टी द्वारा सत्ता में आ जाए। जो मुझ पर विश्वास किया है पार्टी ने 2017 में, तब तो मैं विधायक भी नहीं था, एक सामान्य सांसद था, मेरे पास कोई प्रशासनिक अनुभव नहीं था, मैं शासन के किसी भी दायित्व का तब तक निर्वहन नहीं किया था।
A Delhi court today denied bail to JNU activist and scholar Umar Khalid in a Delhi riots case. He's been in jail since September of 2020. The court said that there may be some inconsistencies in the statements of witnesses, but the finding on no bail has been given based on a cumulative reading of all witness statements, and that while a particular act may appear innocuous, if it's part of a chain of events constituting a conspiracy, then all events must be read together. The court also said that the accused has not written overtly provocative or incriminatory messages, but was part of WhatsApp groups that were created for specific objects, and that he had connectivity with many accused persons. The court going on to say that Khalid was not in Delhi at the time of the riots, but in a conspiracy it's not necessary for every accused to be present. So clearly a lot of issues there in that order by the court while denying bail, which clearly will be contested in a higher court now. India successfully test-fired surface-to-surface supersonic BrahMos cruise missile in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands today. The Navy regularly test-fires the BrahMos, one of the most lethal cruise missiles. The supersonic basically means that speed is greater than the speed of sound. BrahMos missiles can be launched from submarines, from planes or from land.